From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. Today, the House voted to end the U.S. participation in Yemen's civil war. This vote denounces the Saudi-led bombing campaign that's been blamed for Yemen's current failed state and humanitarian crisis. Democrats and Republicans, they remain divided on how to address Saudi Arabia's efforts to challenge the Yemen's Houthi rebels, who are backed by Iran. Today's vote in the House marks the first time both chambers of Congress have voted to invoke the War Powers Resolution to end U.S. military engagement in a foreign conflict. Congress is attempting to reassert its right to dictate when and where the United States engages in military conflict. Meanwhile, yesterday, Vice President Mike Pence warned the country of Turkey against its recent purchase of a $2.5 billion S-400 anti-aircraft missile system from Russia. He said that Turkey could face consequences for its action. Basically, the Russian technology is not just a missile system, it's also a computer that's capable of gathering intelligence and will now be able to hack into the F-35 American-made jet and gather intelligence. What does that mean? It sounds like some sort of super spy device. I'm worried about Turkey getting it, but if they bought it from Russia, doesn't that mean Russia has it? Doesn't that compromise all our F-35s? These are questions, people. These are questions. The purchase is the equivalent of a deal breaker for the alliance with Turkey. Now, for now, the U.S. stands strongly with NATO. Turkey hit back, demanding that the U.S. leave Syria and stop protecting the Kurds. Meanwhile, Russia, who's also demanding that the U.S. leave Syria, is vowing not to let Venezuela become another Syria. Now, 2 plane loads of Russian troops were sent to Venezuela last week to support Maduro. Now, Russia claims that they were just sent to do maintenance work on military equipment that Russia supplied to Venezuela several years ago. But really, they're there to back Maduro in the ongoing Venezuelan crisis, while America, along with dozens of other countries, has thrown its support behind Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido. Guido? It's Juan. Tensions are rising and the pieces are lining up on the risk board of reality. Where will you be when World War III breaks out? A number of Senate Democrats are ready to abolish the Electoral College. This week, a constitutional amendment was introduced that would end the Electoral College as we know it. The ratification of the amendment would mean that presidential candidates would be directly elected by the national popular vote. No more paths to 270s pundits. Now, lawmakers say that they're launching the effort in order to ensure that every person's vote is valued equally. Currently, votes in certain swing states can play a larger role in deciding the outcome than others. In order to be adopted, a constitutional amendment requires the support of 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate, as well as a ratification from 3/4 of the states. Now, that I had somebody do the math. Turns out we're talking 38 states here. Some argue that a switch to a popular vote system could potentially disadvantage rural parts of the country, which would receive less attention from candidates compared to more populous areas. Now, this argument is most popular among Republicans since in recent memory, it was Al Gore and Hillary Clinton who were most disadvantaged by the Electoral College winning the popular vote, but not going on to being president. So without too much thought, without thinking too hard about it, it's easy to look at the Electoral College and say, you know what, the Electoral College is better for the Republicans than Democrats. But that's not necessarily true. It's just that the stories of the past seem to illuminate it more. In 2004, for example, John Kerry lost the popular vote decisively to George W. Bush. Lost it by a lot. But a swing of just 60,000 votes in Ohio would have given John Kerry the 270 to win presidency despite losing the popular vote overwhelmingly. In fact, in the Romney-Obama election in 2012, there was a lot of concern that Obama would win the election based only on an Electoral College win of blue states, and Romney would win the popular vote. So that's sort of the point, isn't it? Why would a democracy keep rolling the dice to see how the chips land instead of just letting the candidate with the most votes win? If Bush had lost the Electoral College in 2004 but won the popular vote, or if Romney had won the popular vote in 2012 and lost the presidency politics, would they be the same? Probably not. It would probably be the Republicans leading the charge for a more democratic system of one person, one vote. Although it's hard to picture election night counting individual states' votes rather than racing to 270, I would enjoy it a lot more. It's a lot easier to understand one vote, one person than some archaic system of 270 electoral votes. For days in Los Angeles, a man being referred to as the LA Slasher was terrorizing residents. It's a classic horror story. He was riding around on his blue and yellow bicycle, stabbing people with sharp objects in the face. Of all places I don't want to be stabbed, number one of them is the face area. Stab me in the ass, stab me somewhere, but this is the... Good God, thankfully he was arrested yesterday and he's off the streets. He attacked at least 9 pedestrians, one of which was a 13-year-old girl. Turns out he was a homeless 19-year-old kid. Meanwhile, a nicer man on a bike story is happening on the other side of the world. A man named Nicholson has been traveling the world on his Trek 920 bike. It's a green bike. He cycled from Scotland to England, traveled through Belgium, France, Switzerland, down to Italy, and in Bosnia, a kitten hitchhiker struck his attention, and he decided to name her Nala. And I imagine it was Nala from The Lion King, but you can imagine any Nala you want, and bring her along as his companion. She rides on Nicholson's shoulders, learning to be accustomed to the bumps and the swerves of the road, and sleeping nuzzled up to his face as he rides. They eat, they camp, they explore the world together, turning heads and getting Instagram likes everywhere they go. Nicholson and Nala have landed in Santorini, the crescent-shaped island in the Aegean Sea, where they plan to pass the summer months. What a great story to end on.